So a bit of safety to finish off with. What we're going to be looking at here is the state emergency priorities. We go through them every year. It used to be the state controller's intent or the state fire control priorities, and now to emergency management priorities. So they are throughout the time of any emergency. So whether you rescue, hazmat, fires, it doesn't matter. We'll have a quick look at LACES, and there's a dynamic risk assessment video from the Indigo Valley Fire that will play a little bit on burnover. We'll see John Bingham talk about burnover, and the last bit about hazardous tree awareness. So the state emergency management priorities are there by the Emergency Management Commissioner for regional controllers and incident controllers. Gives you your key priorities when managing any emergency. The two major ones, protection and preservation of life is paramount. So no matter what we do, they should be at the forefront of our minds. The next thing as high as that is issuing community warnings or information out to the community. And in a lot of cases where we have bad days, we may not be able to fight the fire, but at the very least we should tell the community that. So there's no pride in that anymore to say, we'll tell the community exactly what's happening. And then when we set our objectives, we should also look at the other priorities in that. So protection of critical infrastructure and community assets, protection of residential properties, protection of assets supporting individual livelihoods of businesses, economic production, protection of environmental and conservation assets. Depends on whether the emergency occurs, you may put these in different orders. You don't necessarily need to put it on the order here. And you may turn up to a farmer's homestead who will actually want you to be out in the paddock trying to put the fire out and saving the house. Right? Saving their fodder, saving their breeding stock, whatever it may be. So you need to actually think of that at the time. We've done this for the last few years, so hopefully this is just going over well. And again, LACES, probably going to be very critical this year, especially when we start playing around the bush, but it's as prominent for any of our grass fires. So lookouts. Last year it changed to make sure that you do have a lookout. Now whether that's someone on the truck, whether that's someone a little bit further back at an incident control centre and whatever else, and you'll see from the video from Aaron and the guys at Keyword of having a lookout would have assisted them. So they went through what ended up being a column collapse to the Indigo Valley fire, where the actual smoke column collapsed and drove the fire in all sorts of directions. So I cannot stress enough the need for a lookout. Whether it's someone on the truck that's looking around and looking at the change of conditions, whether it's for a bigger fire, someone back away from the edge of the fire, or whether it's someone completely removed from the fire, or even some of our aviation resources. Awareness, the rest of them haven't changed, but awareness should have aware of the impact of changes in fire behaviour, communications, we've gone on about that enough tonight. Make sure you can communicate, have at least a couple of escape routes, alright? Safety zones should be identified and made known to everyone. So where you can get back to and where you're going to meet to should something occur. Shouldn't be new to people. We'll play the video.
Well, what I remember was we came up here, the wind was blowing fairly steady. We knew the fire was moving at the rear of this hill here and heading down towards that flat open area behind us. When we first got here, we actually parked the truck in such a way that we could have a quick exit, and as the crew leader on the truck and also the incident control at this point, I actually got Leneva to do the same thing, deploy their truck so they could get out as well. We actually went for a walk, Aaron, the captain, and myself, who was driving, and we did a risk assessment of the area, and we worked out on the day that realistically we were on the downhill slope. It would only be a small fire coming up through the top. There was no grass to speak of and just a bit of leaf litter and very small trees, probably roughly 100 mil around max. So we figured it was going to be pretty safe.
The fire went down into the grasslands to the south of us here. We made a radio message. On that radio message we were told we were spared, the fire had gone past us, and within a couple of minutes of that the sky went black, it went to total darkness, and then just the red came. You couldn't breathe, you couldn't see anything. I remember we had a couple of new firefighters with us at the time that sort of looked around and looked at me and said, "Is this for real? Is this what a firefighter's supposed to be?" And it was a case of try and catch me if you can. We're off into the shed.
We would have only been about 8 metres away from the truck at the time, and we could not make the truck. So we decided to go into survival mode, and we ducked inside the shed, where we were actually trapped inside there. The fire was consuming all the oxygen, so we had trouble breathing. Some of the guys stuck their head in fridges and cupboards, just try and get air. And it seemed like a really, really long time, but it was probably only maybe 5-10 minutes tops when we were able to come out. And it was just total devastation. Trees had snapped off at the base instead of pulling roots out of the gums, so the wind was horrific. And things that were on the ground actually burnt, but the fire was never on the ground. It was actually above it, probably 1.5 meters or more.
The split-second moment, there was no hope of holding on to hose lines and trying to defend the property, so it was straight into survival mode. And the survival mode for us was drop the hoses, get into the shed and take cover. You couldn't stay outside.
Well, there's that shed.
Yeah.
We had the cars over there, we had fuel everywhere. The rest of the shed was just full of smoke.
And over in the corner, up in the isolations where it burned, and then the embers started coming through. Well, when things turned, the first thing we thought, if we don't move, we're going to die. It was as simple as that. This was a thing that could kill us quite easily. So the closest thing to us was the shed. We weren't going to make the truck. So we dove inside the shed and then hope for the best. And then of course we had embers coming up underneath the tin. Isolation was starting to catch fire, which normally doesn't. And then we had embers coming underneath as well. So at that stage, beside trying to call for help with a portable that couldn't retransmit from inside the shed, I sort of turned to Aaron and I said, I think we might have bought it this time. That was the opinion.
It's one of the most shit moments. You train all year for practice for these things, and you never think, oh, well, it'll never happen to me. But it does happen, and it happens very quickly. Early on, we'd done our risk assessment, thought it was perfectly defendable. You can't predict the unpredictable.
It was a case of this is it. Don't think we're going to come out of this one. Yeah, which made it the scary moment. I had my son-in-law with me. He was one of the crew members who just had a baby, and one of my main fears was, well, he's not going to go home, to his my granddaughter. Yeah.
For some, there's no home left to go back to.
We were coming in last night, cutting our way through our home, and it was like, coming into hell.
Blackened properties are still smouldering.
The conditions were like I've never experienced before. The flames were metres high, 5 or 6 metres high on occasions.
Expect the unexpected. Make sure all the crews are aware of your backup plan. Always have a backup plan. So if it does turn pear-shaped, that you can make refuge, whether it be in the tanker or in a shed or some other sort of structure to protect yourself. So, yeah. Firefighters become number one, defending the property will come second.
I think when we look back on it, we probably think we did everything right. We did the risk assessment, we kept our crew close, we monitored everything that was going on, but unfortunately sometimes the unpredictable comes. And in this case, it's probably the first time we've ever been really caught out like this. This was totally unexpected, happens in a split second. But it's all right to make risk assessments, but you've got to have a plan. What are you going to do in case that goes wrong? In this particular case, it went wrong badly. So we had the shed to fall back on, and if need be, the house. We could have got in the house.
Alright, so I think that pretty much explains on the back of laces and with the safety. And that was, I suppose, for most people on that day, what might have been a general run-of-the-mill fire in certain parts of the speed, those sort of things. And in the case of a grass fire, that we don't often see column collapse occurring. It's more generally the bushfire when there's a lot of product coming off the fires into the upper atmosphere. So just to finish a couple more safety things, so some lessons learned from last year, so cropping country, that sort of stuff. They had the case of some tanker burn unders occurring up around Swan Hill with some fires, and we'll have a bit of a look at that as well with a video. So District 18, on the 21st of November last year, the spare tanker was amongst 25 tankers that responded to the Swan Hill Parsons Road fire. Burnt through quite a lot of legume and wheat crops there. During the firefight, all tankers were required to have their radiators cleared out. That may need to be the case this year as well. So chaff and straw each time they stopped to refill with water, and it'll make a bit of sense shortly. Approximately 90 minutes into the fire, the tanker moved across firm ground to chase down a section of the western flank that was breaking away. In moving to the position onto the unburnt edge to commence suppression activities, the tanker drove over some burning fire edge with a flame less than a metre high. A short time later, the crew noticed flames, smoke coming from underneath the truck, and flames visible around the dead hose reels and around the side rear wheels. The crew transmitted a mayday call and attempted to extinguish the fire, and with the fire taking hold of the rear of the tanker, the crew moved on foot a short distance. So this is something we haven't really seen before, but with the build-up of chaff and that sort of stuff, we see cars driving across farmers' paddocks with catalytic converters and that sort of stuff. We've now got a few cases where trucks, our own fire trucks, have occurred this way. So I'll watch this video, and it really brings home the need for the burnover drills, and I think on the back of that video and on the back of the stuff that we've been talking about, so this will lead into the burnover drills, and everyone's, the chief's now mandated it. Every operational member, anyone that wants to go on the fire ground needs to have done a burnover drill. And second to that, everyone that needs to go on or wants to go on the fire ground must also have done the tree awareness, the hazardous trees awareness, and we'll talk about that to finish off.
Hi, I'm John Bigham, the Operations Manager from District 18 in Swan Hill. Last year seen our brigades challenged under very trying conditions with very large fires occurring early in the fire season and right up until Christmas Day. Some of the valuable lessons we learnt last year in firefighting was the importance of knowing how to do the burnover drill correctly. The district unfortunately burnt 3 trucks. Only one of these vehicles was lost through a burnover, but the crew were able to escape safely. It is important that your brigades practice these burnover drills, know how to do them, and have situational awareness of where your anchor point will be. I encourage you, as part of your fire brigade training, to practice a burnover drill, and at your group exercises, it should be a compulsory exercise.
Hi, I'm Nipper Turner. I'm a captain of the Swan Hill Fire Brigade. I was the incident controller at the Parsons Road fire in November, and I was the incident controller at the Alderma Road fire in late December. Out of these fires, there was a number of lessons learnt. With last year, the above average spring rainfall that we had crops that we've never seen in the mallee before. They were probably 25 to 30 bag crops, which is unheard of up in this neck of the woods, probably metre to metre 2 tall, which meant there was an extremely amount of high fuel loading on the ground.
Rehabilitation of the fire ground is an important part of firefighting now. It commences as soon as the fire front has passed through. It is important that you engage with the landowner, relevant municipalities or other catchment authorities to start that work early, engage contractors and certainly engage the landowners as we transition from response to recovery.
K&a-half, just behind me the fire started. It came through here. It probably took a while to get through here, about half an hour by the time it got off the lentil stubble, and it just grazed past our house, which is just in front of me. Yeah, after the fire was initially extinguished, the 3 road graders that put in a fire break. They put one grader mark on the edge of where the fire was, and then they put a further one out into the where the standing crop still was, the unburnt area, approximately 10-15 feet apart, the 2 grader lines. Yeah, we did have a couple of concerns. One was basically the stubble load, or the crop that was mixed up in the control line. It was probably, on an average of half a metre high all the way through the middle of the paddock. We were concerned about being able to spray the paddock for weeds during the summer, and the ability to get that stubble out of the dirt to level it off to sow it the next year. As part of the transition from response to recovery, John mentioned that we'd be able to rehabilitate the area, and so that we could continue farming over the next 12 months. Yeah, the rehabilitation that occurred was basically a local contractor, Whitfields, were engaged to come out and level off those areas with their graders. It was a little bit problematic because of the amount of stubble that was still mixed up with the dirt. But yeah, after the rehabilitation, we were able to put a crop in, and the land's been put back to usable now. So we've been able to sow the crop, and it's been levelled out, and we're happy with the CFA, with how they've rehabilitated our farming area.
Fire ground management is an important part of firefighting. You need to understand the capability of your crew. Training is an important part of this. Ensure your members understand their role on the fire ground, how to sectorise a fire, the fire ground channels that you use, and how you will give regular situation reports back to your group LCF or back to Vic Fire. Early situation reports are an important part of firefighting. They paint a picture. They may make equipment available earlier than you anticipate. It also helps with warning the public and ensuring the correct warnings are given to the public. It also may assist in the group planning to support you in operations in the field. A good set rep will contain the following information: your current situation, vehicles that you may require in addition to what's on the fire ground, the potential for the fire, and any assets that may be under threat. Your safety is paramount. Make sure you are well trained, your vehicle is ready, your PPC is up to date, you are well hydrated and ready to go.
Okay, probably a good video to sum up everything we've been chatting about tonight. So to finish off now with just the last couple of bits, but hazardous tree awareness package. So hopefully it's been communicated out to all your brigades now. It was part of the pre-season letter that I sent out to the captains. The hazardous tree awareness package is mandatory this year. So the Chief spoke about the other day. It's in his email that we received today, and I can show that to you shortly. But you can do it online, through brigades online, go into LMS, and yes, LMS is up and working, not to its fullest extent, but it is there. But just out of interest, who's done the online training package so far? That's good. That's good. So about half of you. Each brigade's also been mailed it out in a DVD, so you can actually do it as a brigade exercise, and then actually its responsibility is back on the captain to make sure people have done the burn over drill and the tree awareness package. Alright, so you can do it at brigade level training. Jot down, there's a sheet that we'll send out via email tomorrow that the Chief's endorsed to happen. You can tick them off, sign them off as the captain, and you can actually ring it through to FIRS now, so the fire reporting line rather into the training department, and it'll be on the system, it'll be put on the system. So the package consists, like I said, manual training with a DVD out to the brigade, so it's registered mail, so I think the captain's got to sign for it, or the secretary, and there's some additional stuff going to the secretary about some additional training of people that are able to actually identify and mark the trees, so not just the awareness bit. Alright, so in conclusion, I'll leave that up there. I might just ask David Paul to come forward. Did you want to speak for a minute or two, Paulie?
30 seconds. Certainly a common theme tonight is your well-being and your welfare, and no matter who you work for, whether it's DILT or CFA, the support systems are in place for you. Certainly my concerns are the CFA, and the CFA has a 3-tiered program for your welfare, available 24/7, 365 days a year. Jeff is here. what the three levels are, the peers, and Jeff's around, he's got his head down at the moment. Wake up. The peers are one level, the chaplains are the other, and the member welfare services are the three levels of support for CFA. No matter what your role is, volunteer or staff, all those support systems are available for you. Hopefully you have each got a little one of these cards managing your mental health. If you haven't got one, I've got plenty of these. Just stick in your back pocket just to remind you of the support that's available for you. As I say, 24/7, 364 days, 5 days a year.
All right, thanks, Dave. So we'll wind up there. I guess, firstly, a few thank yous, certainly for Rachel to come along tonight, and hopefully we've got a good video of it anyway, so she didn't have to come to all the others, but it was great to have her along tonight, and hopefully you got something out of that, and the curing. The curing program actually starts on this Sunday night, Monday. If you're keen and interested, we've got a few around the district, a few have dropped off over the years. There's an online training that's done through the brigades online. If you wish to see Phil Brown, because I'm going to throw it at him, Phil does sort of queue and hill area, so he does the Wodonga stuff. We would love to see a few more out around Rutherglen and a few more in the village. We've got one in the Upper Murray and that sort of stuff, but it's really good for us as RDOs to see how the season's tracking through that. And even if it's you don't want to do that type of thing, the more formal stuff, taking a photo and putting it on our Facebook page actually gives us a bit of an appreciation as well. Thanks to my fellow presenters as well. Finally, but not least, thank you very much. I think there's about 80 on in the room tonight. Great to see. Hopefully you've got something out of it. We will do a survey again towards the end of the pre-season briefings just to see whether we're hitting the mark. Trying a few things a little bit different this year, and we may actually move to some technology and provide it out to you. You can watch it in your leisure. But anyway, welcome any feedback.